Supreme Court to rule if Trump can run for president. This could be one of the biggest stories of our age. So what this is good news, ultimately, that this has happened. Of course, it's good news wrapped up in larger bad news. The fact they're trying to get Trump disqualified is the big bad news, but within that, it is good news that the Supreme Court are willing to hear Trump's appeal. Because if they had just said, reject your appeal, then I assume that he would have probably, either he would have to go to a court between the state and Supreme Court, I think there is one, or it would just end up sticking in Colorado, and then also in Maine, and then also in the other 14 or whatever it was states that want to try and do this, and it probably would stick in all of them. The Supreme Court failing to agree to hear his position would have been catastrophic for democracy in the US, but they have agreed to hear it, so that is good. Let's read a bit more of the article, though. This is from the BBC, and I read it before the stream. It's short, but actually quite fair. They say, the US Supreme Court has said it will hear a historic case to determine if Donald Trump can run for president. The justices agreed to take up Mr. Trump's appeal against a decision by Colorado to remove him from the 2024 ballot in that state. The case will be heard in February, and the ruling will apply nationwide. It's quite soon, actually. It's only a month from now that it'll be heard. Lawsuits in a number of states are seeking to disqualify Mr. Trump, arguing that he engaged in insurrection during the US Capitol riot 3 years ago, which, to refresh your memory, it's nonsense. Even if you agree the 14th Amendment should exist, which I question, what he did absolutely did not apply to it. It barely even came close to it. However, what Biden and the Democrats did, whoever specifically was responsible for it, in rigging the election, of which there is plentiful material evidence gathering over years, but we knew it very early on, that you could argue is an insurrection, a coup at the very least. If anyone's going to be disqualified,
they're doing everything they can to get him not on the ballot. Anything. Yeah. I swear, like, eventually they'll just kill him. They will. They'll attempt to kill him.
I fear that possibility. Yeah. I've mentioned this before. I suspect, with not 100% certainty, but with maybe 50-50 certainty, maybe a bit more than that, maybe 75% certainty, that this time around they will do anything to prevent him from becoming president. Like last time, they were willing to do rigging, and they succeeded in that. This time, if they have the whiff, even the slightest whiff that their rigging won't work, they will do anything. No, I don't think they need to try to kill him, because I think that they could, even if they lose, they can just leverage the media to lie for them that they won. They don't technically need to rig the election. They just need the media to tell everyone what the results were. It'll cause a massive amount of unrest, but the Democrats have demonstrated that they wanted to do that kind of thing. I'm not saying that's likely, but that's one of the possibilities that they probably could do that would be easier and less destructive than just killing Trump, and yet they probably still would kill Trump. Imprisoning him for some faux legitimate reason, that's much easier for them to do as well, if they can actually get through the court procedure, and they might want to do that. I suspect they intend to do that rather than to let him potentially win this time. I'm very concerned about
there's
that.
people like, oh, they won't want to make him a martyr by killing him, but it depends on how dangerous he would be if he got in power. They would rather kill him and deal with the people freaking out than they would getting him in power and fucking up whatever plans they have. Yep. Like, it could be that serious.
Because if Trump is killed in a way that they can spin as an accident, Tobias Reaper walks away from the scene, then a bunch of Boog Boys start up, which would be a fair response, to be honest. The establishment can just say, these people are attacking us for no reason. It was an accident. Military, get them. And you know how that goes, obviously, chat. The military won't be able to just wipe them out in an instant. But if they can convince the military to be on their side and to fight against their own citizens, if they can make a persuasive case through grift and deception and media propaganda, then the rebellion has a low chance of succeeding.
On the military. It'll entirely depend on the military, but there are a lot of people in the military that are pro-Trump, so I feel like it might be more difficult than expected to try and get the military, not only that, but to turn on their own citizens and start policing their own citizens. Like, that's going to be a massive push that they would have to spin something crazy
Yeah.
that people would have to believe. I don't know if they'd be able to do it, but
I
who
suspect
knows?
not. Yeah.
You never know.
I suspect not. I think the possibility exists, but I think it's unlikely. I think on second thoughts, perhaps the Democrats have not been working for China to weaken the military for years so that China can invade Taiwan. Perhaps the US military has been working to not necessarily weaken the military, but just leftify it so that the military will no longer support the rebellion if there is one. That makes a lot more sense, actually.
Yeah. Well, they're actually having more problem
But they haven't
even
succeeded.
getting people. Yeah, they're having trouble recruiting people, and also during the COVID stuff, there was a lot of people that refused to get it and just left, and now they're trying desperately to get those people back. So it'll entirely depend on like if the military will even listen to this new fucking regime, which they might not.
Trump's also appealed against a decision by electoral officials in Maine to remove him from the ballot, Maine being the state where they've also pulled this shit. Courts in Minnesota and Michigan have dismissed attempts to disqualify Mr. Trump. Other cases, including in Oregon, are pending. While Trump's alleged efforts to subvert the outcome of the 2020 presidential election are the focus of trials in federal courts and a state court at Georgia, he has not been criminally charged with inciting insurrection in either case. So this article from the BBC, they probably do have a slight bias, but it's actually pretty fair. They do say it's alleged efforts, although, of course, that's not what happened. He was trying to correct the result of the 2020 election, which was corrupted by vote rigging and election rigging on a massive scale. But we all know that. And the rest of it was pretty fair as well. So, yeah, there you go. So that is good news. As I said, if they had not agreed to hear it, then that probably would have been the end of the chances to do something about it. Now, maybe he could appeal the court itself or the court that's just above them, but isn't the Supreme Court. I'm not sure about that. But it is lucky that they decided to hear the case. Because if they hadn't, it might just have been like the beginning of the very series of events that would lead to the end of the Republic. Trump could thereafter have been removed from 16 states minimum who were already considering doing this. Maybe all the Democrat ones would have removed him. So that's be concerning. And then if that had happened, they might have removed Biden from all the Republican ones. At that point, I don't know what the hell happens there. I mean, probably the Democrats might switch over from Biden to someone else who would be able to run in those other places. And maybe the Republicans would then ban them from it. Just ban Democrats entirely from their own states. Now, you can see what I'm saying here. This gets to the point of being a potential civil war very quickly. But yeah, the Democrats are not willing to enter open conflict with their own people. But they're willing to do everything up until that point to ensure they retain their power. So be ready for it.